crisp in the sleeve. Every Tuesday night feels like Christmas Eve. Living between Wednesdays.
What's up, folks? I'm your host, Conrad, on Wednesday Night Reviews. And once again, we're joined by Wells Thompson to talk about another comic book that he's putting out. Wells, thanks for taking the time to come on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. So first and foremost, for the folks out there who've maybe never seen your face, never heard your name, who is Wells Thompson?
Wells Thompson is a comic book writer, mostly. Also cat rescuer and bartender, and various other things. I mostly do comic books, some short stories and novels, but for the most part, comics are my thing. Most recently, I have been writing Mechaton, which is my sci-fi comedy series that I do with Dalton Shannon, my co-writer. And that is coming out through Scout Comics. Sorry, my words are all over the place today. I'm still kind of waking up.
Not to worry. We are certainly earlier than I would normally be. About that, to quickly touch on that before we jump into your new book.
Sure thing.
Mechaton's being put out by Scout Comics.
Congratulations.
Yes,
thank you so much. I appreciate that. Issue one went in stores a month or two ago. And the trade should be out. I'm not going to promise when. I haven't gotten a date, but my hope is sometime before the end of this year.
Beautiful. And have you had the chance to walk into a shop and see your own book there?
Yes.
And how was that?
It was very cool. It was extremely exciting. And it was like they put it like under the glass too with all the important books. So I was like, oh, that's me. I know that book.
That is so cool. But yes, as mentioned, we're here to talk about your new book yet again. This is like the fourth time we've done this.
I've always got a new book.
Yes, you do. So, Wells, do tell us, what is the Catskin and the Rose?
The Catskin and the Rose, I got excited for a second because I saw 11,000, then I realized you're Canadian. Your money's
Canadian, yeah.
The Catskin and the Rose is a fantasy romance graphic novella. So in theory, it's a one shot. I think to my horror, when I wrote it, I realized, this is begging for a sequel, which was not my intention going into it. But it does work. Even if we never touch it again, it's still a really satisfying story. But yeah, 68-page one shot graphic novella about two legendary duelists that enter a tournament. The grand prize of which is marrying into the royal family. And they realize as they are fighting each other that maybe there's something more here. They get a respect for each other, and eventually they, start to catch feelings. And the complications that arise as a result. This has been a lot of fun to make. It was originally a prompt. You may remember a little while ago, there was an anthology that's actually just getting fulfilled now called Sharp Wit in the Company of Women.
Yeah.
And this sort of was like what would I do with that idea, that concept? It's like, okay, so, this is an anthology about women with swords, essentially, was like the short bill. And I was like, I could do this. And I was like, that would make for a fun short. And I tried to write it, and I realized really quickly that it wasn't going to fit in 4 pages. But I was still really interested in it, and I wanted to kind of see where it went. So I reached out to Rachel Disler, who is the artist, the interior artist, whose work you're looking at right now. And she was super excited for it. This is before I had written the script, and I was like, it's probably going to be like 32, maybe 48 pages max. And then I was just like, I'm sorry, it's more than that.
Oh my goodness.
Just kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But yeah, I did eventually stop myself before we started to get to like the hundreds of pages length, which I have written those stories before, and this could have been that, but made a conscious effort to like, we're going to do this. We're going to keep this one short.
Sure you are. I guess my first question is, so just to clarify, so the Sharp Wit and the Company of Women was
Mhm.
an anthology. We actually interviewed the editors and some
Yeah,
creators.
Michelle and Brent are fantastic people,
Yeah,
and have been really supportive of this book as well, which they didn't have to be. I'm really glad that they're on board for it. And yeah, and I'm personally like I backed that project, and I'm really excited to get it to my doorstep. I want to read it. I want to read the hell out of it. A lot of my friends are in that book. It's going to be a fantastic one for sure. When it hits stores, if you don't have a copy already, oh fellow listener, you should absolutely go out of your way to purchase it.
wait, hit store. Did they end up getting picked up?
I don't think they've announced anything yet, and I don't know if they have. I'm not saying I
Okay.
have insider knowledge or anything, but I just assume that they will because it's a brilliant anthology. It's got a lot of talent on it. Their last anthology got picked up by a Wave Blue World, so I have no doubt it's going to be in stores like eventually.
I dig it, and yeah, I saw on someone posted on Instagram. It might have been Brent. That they've got like proof copies, the done book.
Yeah,
and now they're
yeah.
So yeah,
I saw those as well. Oh god, I can't wait to read it.
So this then started as a potential
Yeah,
answer to that,
sort of a 4-page prompt, yeah. And I tried, and as sort of an homage to that, I wound up doing a 3-page script that we're going to be releasing as a stretch goal. So when we hit funding, we'll release more details on that. But yeah, Tango, the artist Tango, is going to be drawing that for us if we manage to hit that goal. So very excited potentially.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so obviously it's, as you said yourself, a bit of a love story. Two people come to this tournament in order to compete, and then eventually whoever wins gets to marry royalty. So we have, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, we have Iselda.
Iselda, is the way I say it, but yeah.
Iselda, perfect. And Camille.
Camille, yeah. Yeah, these are our two protagonists. These are our two main characters of the thing. They were a lot of fun to write and design. They have very distinct and at times very opposing personalities, but that just kind of makes their dynamic more fun. Yeah, Iselda is a spitfire for sure. She's like both grew up very like sort of the rationale behind why they're doing it. They both kind of grew up poor. They both like found ways to fend for themselves and discovered a natural talent and sort of found a way to harbor that and are trying to use it to escape that life. And now they've come to a point where it's, do I do what's, win and do what's comfortable, or do I take a risk here and do something maybe better?
Nice.
So yeah, there's that kind of compelling push and pull between them.
And like I said, Iselda's a bit of a spitfire. What about Camille? What's Camille like?
Camille is like, she has this very single-minded determination about everything. And as far as like sword fighting goes, as far as getting where she needs to do, she's traveled, thousands of miles to get here. She is the outsider in this culture. But as soon as she's never really had much of a personal life. So as soon as things start to get personal, she just turns into kind of a sprawling catastrophe, which is captured really brilliantly in the sample pages of her just kind of melting as Iselda starts to flirt.
Yes, and I want to.
But yeah, I think they're above. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I have to say, Wells, your capacity for writing is continuously impressing.
Oh, thank you.
Well, so the first introduction I got to you was through Frankenstein, where you've adapted Mary Shelley's book, or not adapted it, but you've
we adapted the character into this kind of new setting.
Yeah, and then through Mechaton, I got to see a little bit more of comedic aspect of your work, along with Dalton, and then
we did depths, right?
Yeah, depths. Yeah. Like the next one about your deep sea diver, which is very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got Catskin and the Rose here. You're seemingly hopping genres, character archetypes. Like,
I'm starting to realize creatively, like it's extremely fulfilling creatively. Because this is clearly some form of like creative ADHD. Like I cannot stay in one lane, and I am starting to realize as a creator it might be better for me to just like go really hard into the Frankenstein stuff and do spin-offs of that and like stay in that genre. But yeah, every time I get inspired to write something, it's because, oh, I've never done this before. This is interesting. Let me try something new. Like romance was always something, particularly when I was, when I was first getting into writing as a teenager and in my 20s, I was like, everything has this forced love story, and I hate that. I don't really want to touch romance, and none of my stories really have like strong, like romantic elements to them for the most part. Mm-hmm. Maybe the closest thing you get in Mechaton is like Hex and Leah, and their whole thing is that they're an established relationship. So It's not like we see them like awkwardly fall in love in the middle of all of this like mech action. It's like they're already a thing. Last year, I was sort of presented with the prompt, and I was like, how would I handle a romance? Like, how can you convincingly like bring two people together like that? And it got me excited. And I wrote the entire script in the first draft of the script in about 5 or 6 days. I had to flip through my my DMs with Rachel to confirm, because it was like, okay, I'm gonna start, and then 5 days later I was like, I'm sorry for what you're about to receive.
That's amazing. And what about, like, was it just the aspect of it being different and a challenge? Was there something that made you want to tell a romance story?
Well, I mean, at the end of the thing that always makes me excited about a story is just the characters. I love exploring, like getting to a point where the character has a strong enough voice that it doesn't feel like I'm creating something out of whole cloth. It feels like I'm just putting them in a world and being like, okay, well, what would they do? How do we move this forward? And when you get to that point, when you start really exploring like what makes a character tick and allowing them to sort of take agency in their own world, that's when the story really catches fire for me. Once it started off as like, okay, well, what if two people fall in love during a sword fight? Can you make that convincing? And then you think about who the people are and sort of let them kind of carry the inertia of the story. So that's what was exciting about it for me. Was sort of learning who these people are and allowing them to get to the point that I wanted them to get to.
Nice. I like the way you mentioned it. Creative ADHD, which seemingly fits very well. One thing that I did want to ask. So earlier, like I happen to be a fan of R.A. Salvatore, who's a very famous writer in Forgotten Realms and D&D and all that. One of the quotes or not quotes, I guess, one of the stories he will continually tell is that sometimes he'll be at his computer writing and he'll be laughing to himself, and his partner would come over and be like, "What are you doing?" And he's laughing at himself because the characters are telling him what's going on. He finds it funny.
Yeah.
Do you find for yourself the characters sort of talk to you and tell you what's going on?
Yeah. It's funny because writers typically know what I'm talking about when I start to say things like that, and everyone else is like, "This is mental illness." But no, it's absolutely true. Once you figure out who your characters are and what kind of story you want to tell, very often you're not sort of like forcing the story. You're not trying to force dialogue or like figure out, what someone would do. you're just kind of letting them loose and letting them tell you how the story is going to go. Obviously, you have like, how it needs to end, or this like big plot point that needs to happen, but it's less of, if you're doing your job right, it's less of like, hoping that it winds up there, and more you've tailored them. Like, they are telling you, okay, I want to take this path, and you go, okay, how do we branch that path into where I want to go? And you get surprised quite a bit, where you had some really firm ideas about, well, this is how this is going to go, and then you reach a certain point where you go, they wouldn't react that way. That doesn't make sense anymore. I have to change course. Which is one of the reasons why I don't typically write more than 1 or 2 issue at a time. So I generally have like an idea. Like, I have a good, I'll have an outline for the arc. I'll know where I want it to go. I'll know what the big plot points are. But I generally only write, 1 or 2 issues, and then I want, if possible, I want to start to see them like being drawn and see how the artist starts interpreting it, so that I can then say, oh, that this character is turning out different than I thought, or this plot point needs to be stressed in a different way. And in that way, we're keeping it very, spontaneous and adaptable.
Okay. And now given that this is, it's a rather beefy one shot. It's certainly, I would say, like, if you broke it down into 20 to 24 pages, you'd get about 3 issues.
It's like 3 issues, of a story.
Did you find that when you wrote out the first 40-odd pages, did you hand it over to Rachel, your artist, on this, have them start drawing it, and then was there sort of an impact in Rachel's style of art rendering that made you go, this needs to tweak?
I think this one was unusual in a lot of ways. Like, we started off, again, I didn't have a script, which is unusual. I usually have a full, like, everything written up that I can just be like, here, what do you think? And it was more like, hey, would you want to work on this idea? And she was like, hell yes, I would.
Nice.
So this is also one of the only stories that I've ever written kind of backwards. Like, I didn't know how I was going to start the story. Again, because that was part of, like, I wasn't entirely sure who these people were yet. But I knew what the ending was. Like, I had a really strong vision for, like, the ending and one of the early scenes, like, in the middle. And I was like, okay, I just need to write these two and then kind of connect everything. And that turned out to be a lot of fun to do. And so I wrote the opening kind of last.
Interesting.
Which wound up being a lot stronger, because by then I knew who I had the voice for the characters. So getting into it wasn't like awkwardly trying to find the characters. It was like, this is just what they would say and do. It was a much stronger introduction to these people right off the bat. That said, so I didn't get we didn't have any pages drawn or anything while I was writing, but I did get those character designs that you showed, and that did sort of influence, like, that changed sort of how I wanted to present the characters a little bit.
Interesting.
Because I had a good idea of what they looked like in my head, but when you see them on paper, you're like, oh, I get it. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, and so that starts to influence how you how you start to write them and what their voice sounds like. And yeah,
I really find that interesting that and it makes sense. Like, I certainly understand that seeing a character brought to life by a particular artist, the way that they're drawn, the way that their body is positioned, their expression, the intensity of their colors, whatever, it would impact, this person is, like, how you perceive that they are strong. Are they smarter? Are they calm, curious, witty? Like, how seeing them would do that. That's interesting.
Yeah, and even just little things like when you look at Iselda, her clothing is really, like, flowy, and there's a lot of, like, ribbons and fabric hanging off. Her hair is super long, and so you start to write action scenes that sort of reflect that, where you can get a lot more dynamic with the shape language and stuff like that. So that was something. Whereas everything on Camille is very tight and guarded, and so we wound up. That's actually where the title came from. Was this is also like the hardest time I've ever had picking a title. Was essentially it's the two characters. Catskin is like a derogatory thing that they call Iselda, being a poor person from this culture, and like Camille is the rose in that she has a pretty face, but her body is scarred up entirely, like from years of sword fighting. So yeah, no, it again, everything sort of just came out of the characters.
I love that. Then we're about 20 minutes in, so I do want to ask about the Prince and the Queen, because I think the Queen's design is spectacular. But
it's so good. No, yeah. And that was like, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I think, and it might not even like, I sort of the way the story is, the Queen is a minor character, a really important minor character, but like it was seeing this seeing this depiction of her that made me want to do the short with Tango, which is one of the things I really hope we get to draw, and also like started getting my gears spinning about like what would a sequel look like.
Okay, cool. Then yes, we will come back to the Queen, but first and foremost, how can people get the book? So we've got up the visuals, thankfully, right from the campaign. So can you walk us through this?
Sure thing. So it is on Kickstarter right now. It has 3 weeks left. We have I try and give people as many options from low to high as possible. We start off with our digital copy. No shipping, no nothing. Just gets emailed straight to you as soon as the design is finished.
Gotta love that.
As a side note, every tier includes a digital copy. So you're still getting a digital copy if you get a print copy. Great. Also on this book, because it's a larger book, we don't have to be as concerned about like space. We can do like a full thank you page. So anyone who gets the digital copy or higher gets their name in the book on the thank you page. So
that's so cool.
Absolutely. For $25, you get the standard edition, which is the story, the thank you page, maybe a note or two, but it's the book. It's the book as you would expect it to be. Plus, you get the digital copy, as I mentioned. For I believe it's $40. Yeah, for $15 more, you get the special edition, which has. I should mention the standard edition has Fellhound's cover art, which this was like the foundational image for the story, was them in the pits, surrounded by danger, but they have each other. And then the special edition has the Skylar Patridge cover, which is like one of the most gorgeous pieces of art I've ever seen, and it only gets better the longer you look at it. You start to see little imprints like in the picture, and
it's beautiful.
It's so good. This will include back matter, including character sheets and page breakdowns, and if we get those stories made, we'll put the short comics in there as well. So this will include a lot more like back matter copy and stuff, as well as of course the digital. For $60, you get we doing just again, this was born out of like, this art is too beautiful. So this is a virgin art, no cover dressing, foil cover of Skylar Patridge's beautiful piece for us. We're also throwing in one of our add-ons, the sword lesbian flag.
I love that.
Yeah, the characters' swords crossed over the flag it's great. We're also doing an enamel pin of that one, just as an add-on later. And then everything is
killer.
It's the flag, it's both stickers, it's all three issues, or it's all three versions of the book, the standard, the special, and the foil. So you get one of each, you get a full collection. It's also about, I believe it's like 15% off if you like piece everything out individually. So you're saving like 15. Yeah, you're saving like $15 by getting the everything versus getting all of it individually.
Gotta like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And
This is
no,
cool.
I was gonna say we have 2 tiers of digital commissions. They are sold out.
Oh
Unfortunately.
no!
Yeah.
I mean, good.
They sold
That's
out
good.
pretty quickly, which was
Really?
really exciting. But yeah, Rachel Disler is doing some commissions for the
Woo.
for the campaign.
Congrats!
Yep, none left.
Oh my god!
Mm-hmm.
Congrats! That's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
And
we're
thank
also
you, Rachel.
Yeah, we're absolutely. Thank you, Rachel, for volunteering your time on this. We're also selling all of the books that I've done on through Kickstarter, as well as a couple of others. So we've got Frankenstein 1 and 2. We've got
I love this, by the way.
oh yeah, the signed my con. If you I didn't want to do a tier that was like, this is signed and this isn't, and that confuses people. So it's just like flat fee. If you get 1 comic, if you get 19 comics, I will sign all of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a collector and as a person who like whenever I buy someone's comic from them, it's like, especially like an indie creator, it's like, yeah, I want your signature on it. You made this thing, right? Like a brief story. I remember I went to TCAF here in Toronto, it was a Toronto Comics Art Fair.
Sure.
And Grant Stoy and Alaire Rasico were there with.
I love Grant. Oh, I love
yes. So they were there with, I think at the time it was this 3rd or maybe the 4th issue of SideQuest, and I was like, yeah, I want your book. I want the whatever's available of it. I want it. And Grant was like, okay, cool. And I paid, and he handed me the books. I'm like, oh, can you sign them? And he was like, you want me to sign these? And I'm like, yeah, it's your book. And he's like, oh. And he got out and he put his mark
Grant
on it.
is such
Alaire
a
did that.
precious being. I love him so much. He's just so like, wait, you like my book? Like he's just so touched every time you're like, no, it's really good. SideQuest, by the way, if you're listening, is brilliant and you should read it. It is one of my favorite indie books of all time.
Yeah, it's so good. I can't wait for what comes next from it. The 5 issues, I have them downstairs. I've finished reading them. They're on my table so that I can literally go, okay, hey Grant, what's a good time? Come on my show, please.
Please come on my show.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I've got them in my library right now. But yeah. So we've got anyway, back to
the cool things.
We've got the Sword Lesbian Enamel Pen, which has been extremely popular.
Of course.
Absolutely. Enamel pens are great, and I need to do more of them. But yeah. The By Visibility Anthology. So this is one that I got to have a story in. It's a Cat Calamia book. And number 1 and number 2 are available for purchase on here. Yeah, and I have a story in both. So we have extra copies of stuff. We've got Descent into Dread, my horror anthology. We've got the digital catalog. So this is all of the issues of Mechaton and Frankenstein the Unconquered. So if you want to catch up on everything that I've been doing, there you go. Catch up on the Mechaton series.
That cover.
Oh, I love that cover. Yeah. Fernando does such a good job on those. And then what else? We have By Visibility. We have extra copies of stuff. Oh, yeah, from the Static. Okay. From Band of Bards, from the Static. I, again, have a story in that one.
You just keep putting books out.
What can I say? I'm busy.
Yeah, really.
Absolutely. And of course, the holofoil. If you want to get extra copies of that, there you go.
That's
yeah. So we have add-ons for everyone. We have we have a commissions tier that I think everyone is approachable from everyone. And yeah, I'm people have been responding.
Clearly, like again, it's Canadian, folks. It's not fully backed, but in Canadian, you've got $11,119 of $13,223. I'm assuming your goal in America, because you're from the States, your goal is what, 10,000?
It's 10K. Yeah, it's 10,000.
10K. So my apologies for the earlier confusion. You are not fully backed yet.
No, we're at 80 in USD. We're at $8,400, so we're about $1,600 away from being fully funded
in 7 days, right?
Yeah, this is we launched at 11 a.m. last Monday, so it's been almost exactly 7 days.
Damn. And you're that far back already. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Given that this is a fairly different story from what you normally have put out,
Mm-hmm.
How's the fan response been different? Like, have people been tweeting at you a lot about it, or is it just you've noticed the pledging? Like, how is this?
This is definitely a lot higher ratio of new backers to old ones, and that's fine. You know, people who backed Frankenstein presumably want more Frankenstein. I totally get that. But yeah, no, there's also been a good amount of people coming over and saying, you know, oh, this looks really cool. This is really different. I like this. So it's a good mix. You know, that's again one of those things where I was saying, like, maybe it'd be good if I focus up a little bit, because I'm sure the people who, you know, it's been, you know, I since last October was the last time that we did Frankenstein book, and I'm sure fans of Frankenstein are going like, okay, this has been cute. Let's get to number 3. Let's get to number 3 and 4. And don't worry, we're working on it. But
beautiful.
Yeah, that's next on the docket is 3 and 4. But yeah, no, this is something that I care about a lot. It's also you notice that Dalton's not to my right. Yeah.
Yeah. Normally you're
yeah, which and I love working with Dalton, of course, but this is also like a solo, you know, writing project for me. So it's very important to me to get this out there just creatively for my own sake. And I'm really glad that the response to it has been really positive so far.
I love it. Like it's definitely, like I said, different. From everything I've seen, the preview pages, which again, folks, Kickstarter, The Catskin and the Rose graphic novella, look it up. I'm not sure what subsection of that you could punch in and still get the same result, but that what you're seeing on screen will get you right to the campaign. From the pages that are up there, from the knowing you and the descriptions that are on the Kickstarter, yeah, it sounds just like a damn good book.
Thank you.
I guess my question is, when it comes to the main cover, the Fellhound cover, did that cover get made? I mean, obviously not publicly, but did that cover get made during the time of the Sharp Wit and the Company of Women, or did that happen sometime between, or is this like a new thing that's just recent?
No, the cover. So we reached out pretty early on because everyone is just extremely busy in the world of indie comics, particularly when you have really talented people like Fellhound, Skylar Patridge. We knew that if we wanted any chance of getting them in, you know, June, July of this year, we needed to reach out to them, you know, as soon as we could. So in November, I think we reached out to Fell and Sky and sort of gave them the idea and everything. And we've been hanging on to that cover. I believe we got Fell's cover in like April.
Oh wow.
So yeah, we've been sitting on it for a month or so. And then Skylar was able to finally get to ours like 2 weeks before the campaign.
Woo!
She is busy, and it is so worth it. It is incredibly worth the nervous energy you have of just like, oh god, I hope this is good, and then you see it and you're like, this is better than I could have hoped.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. And there is Fell and Skylar.
Both were super into the project. Both were incredibly gracious and really fun to work with, but took both concepts and absolutely ran with it. So
I dig it.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask about, because I've never come into contact previously with Rachel Disler. What made you want to work with Rachel on this? How did that partnership form?
Sure. So I'm always looking for for people to work with, because again, creative ADHD. I love working with Nando. I don't want everything to look like Mechaton. I want Mechaton to look like Mechaton. So that sort of necessitates, you know, I need to be in contact with a bunch of different artists. And the way I got in contact with Rachel was last year at some point. I had a just like one-off cute idea for an Arcane fan comic. If you're familiar with the show Arcane.
Oh, like the League of Legends
yeah.
Arcane.
Yeah,
Oh, hell
yeah.
Okay, cool.
So and that's actually that's one of the stretch goals is putting that in print in a little. I don't think we can put it in the book for legal reasons, but we're gonna put it on a postcard front and back and send it to as an insert.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I was like, I wrote this 2-page script and I was like, this is something I'm never, going to be able to really, if anything, it's just like, I'm going to put it on Twitter and hopefully it'll get a like or two. And that's all I really wanted from it. And also it was partially that and partially I wanted to give it as a gift to one of my good friends in Nashville who was totally obsessed with Arcane and loves the characters. But so yeah, I reached out to Brent Fisher and was just like, hey, who was, I think had just gotten done doing or was had like gotten done with The Color of Always, and I was like, hey, do you know any good artists that would like this? And he was like, yeah, here's 4 or 5, and Rachel was one of them. I reached out to her. She didn't have anything going on, and was like, yeah, I would love to draw this.
Lucky.
So I was just like, this was a cool one-off thing. So she was very much on my mind. We had a good rapport, and so I just kind of tentatively reached out to her, like, hey, is this something you'd be interested in? And I've never gotten a more like enthusiastic hell yes in my life. And yeah, like, Rachel's been a joy to work with. Every time we have a conversation on Twitter, it's just like pages and pages of us going back and forth, being like, wouldn't it be dumb if this happened? Like, yes, let's do it.
That's fantastic. And actually, I'm gonna pop Rachel's site up here. Right there we go.
Yep.
I love this the artist portrait, if you will, the mangaka style.
Absolutely.
Drawing. So Rachel's site is redtiebear.com. Oh yeah, redtiebear.com.
Red Tie Bear Studios. That's her thing.
Beauty. And so what about Rachel's style made you feel that it was right for the book?
Good question. It was just very like, she has a very expressive, like, is very expressive with her characters. It is like her designs are simple but in a very endearing way. Like it struck me as something that's like, this could be very like fairy tale like in kind of a way, and that was sort of the aesthetic that I wanted to go with.
Oh, right on.
Was sort of, bordering on like fairy tale or folk tale. I say a lot, the big media sort of comparison I make is it's like The Princess Bride. It's like The Princess Bride meets Revolutionary Girl Lieutenant. Just a super sapphic, over the top love story with swashbuckling adventure and yeah, these very like big over the top themes. And I just thought that her color choices are phenomenal, and her designs are really like purposefully simplistic in a lot of ways, but in a way that like draws attention to what you want it to draw attention to. It's not like there's some like manga influence, but it isn't like a fully manga style, which I always like. Same thing that I like with Fernando. And yeah, that was sort of that was the impetus of like, I think this could work really, really well. And then she took that and just, that first page where she sets it up with the window framing is like, so I'm just like, that's beautiful. That's so good. That could be like an illustration in like a Brothers Grimm fairy tale or something, like like a book, for children. Like, I love that.
Yeah, like one thing I'm finding interesting about, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel started with webcomics, right?
I believe so. I don't have her like full history or anything, but she started with like manga style and webcomics is my understanding, and then most recently did the Nightcrawlers, which is coming to stores soon. I don't know exactly when, but definitely sometime this year it will be out in stores. And has just gotten like better and better and more sophisticated in her storytelling and her ability to portray a scene.
Yeah. Well, what I've noticed is, and it seems to be like really consistent across like all the webcomic people that I've talked to, their style stems out of manga influenced by Western comics. Like it's really interesting, and then you end up with this sort of consistent, like even across artists, it looks consistent, which is weird to me. Like that each artist wouldn't have like a lot of variants,
right?
But yeah, it's this really cool style that blends them both, where it's leading to more expressive characters and emotions or emotes, I guess, like this.
Yeah,
that also just blends so well for comics. Like it's great.
For sure. Yeah. No, I think a lot of Western comics fall into the trap of everything has to be overly realistic, and stylization is often the much better tool, particularly for this medium. Which isn't to say I don't love myself some good like over the top Frank Frazetta style realism, but hence Frankenstein the Unconquered. But there's a time and place for it. There's places that you want the over the top realism. There are places that you want a more expressive style, and I feel like this was a story that I definitely wanted it to be more expressive, because we're dealing with a lot of high melodrama and emotion.
Yeah.
So it needs to go to that place.
Fascinating. Yeah. I love it, and I think the style itself fits so well. And yeah, just when it comes to conveying the at least what feels, when anyone's actually experienced it, very hidden and internal emotions, like what this person or what Camille is experiencing here, what feels very internal, but of course in a comic book page you can't just draw someone errantly being like
you have to externalize that so that the reader can pick up on it, and or you can do it in dialogue, but it's if you can show it visually, it's usually much better too.
Yeah, exactly. Now talking about showing it visually, you've got pages up here which are gorgeous. You've got concept designs, characters. Big important question that I like to ask for the folks who've maybe never done a Kickstarter before, especially because this is sort of on the higher end of cost when it comes to if it's their first one. Mind you, it's also a huge book for a comic. How much of the book is currently done? What's the timeline for completed art and printing?
This is a larger project, obviously, as you've hit on. And I try as hard as I can to prevent crunch and the stressing out, the artists who are putting in most of the physical labor in this. My estimates are very conservative, are very longer than I expect them to be. But currently we're saying that our estimated delivery for physical stuff is 1 year, is July of 2024. I think we can get it done quicker than that, but that's ultimately if someone gets sick, if someone gets if something big comes up, I want to make sure that people have the space to deal with life and still get the book done in a good amount of time. So as far as how much of the book is done, pretty much what's on the Kickstarter page.
Okay.
Yeah, so we don't have, or it's written, it's finished, it's been edited, we know what we want to make. But we don't have, we're not sitting on a ton of pages. We're sort of working through it right now. We will be updating the page with more pages as the Kickstarter goes on.
Good move.
Hopefully,
I dig that.
Yeah, with some letters, with some more pages, some black and whites and colors. just to give people like a look at the process and stuff and update people on what we're doing. But yeah, no, it's we're very honest with what we have, and what we have is what you can see.
I love it, and I don't know if this is necessary or if Kickstarter like mandates you have.
No,
but I
just
appreciate it.
Yeah, this is just something I got it from Curtis Clow when I first started like researching Kickstarters. This is something that he does, is just shows kind of the budget and where everything is going, so that people kind of understand what it is that, like, why we need this money. And I don't really explicitly, I think on this one I did kind of point out, like, this is sort of how much we need to actually break even, and this is what we're aiming for.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, most of it does go toward the art. And there is a fair amount that's just like, we got to process credit cards, and we got to pay Kickstarter, and we got to save some for taxes. And obviously printing and shipping is a big thing. Yeah, but like, I feel like the more people know about where the money is going, particularly in comics where it can seem a little bit mysterious, the more likely they are to be like, okay, they have a good idea of what they're asking for and why they need it. Nothing makes, I'll say this, nothing makes me more nervous, and I don't want to throw shade at anybody or anything, but when I come across a comic project and the goal, and it's like a 200-page graphic novel and the goal is $300, I'm like, I am incredibly skeptical.
Yeah, no, that would be...
I'm like, okay, so assuming that you're drawing it yourself and you're not paying for yourself, $300 is not enough to cover even the shipping, let alone the printing. So I always am very skeptical with budgets, and I always want to see that and make sure that we're being as transparent as possible.
I love it. Also, I don't want to get too much into the details, but you're after 10,000 American.
Yes.
Art is going to be 56.5% of this, so say $5 and a chunk grand.
It's actually going to be art is probably going to be closer to like 7.5 or 8. When I do the budget, this is what it's going to cost for the whole thing, and those costs are generally more than what we're asking for. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So.
But one thing that I will stress, and I think that you're showing it is a fantastic thing, art is expensive.
Art is very expensive, yes.
Yeah, straight up. Pay your artists. Don't try and haggle them. Don't try and debate them.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, who's done this book, who's got wonderful art in it, who's done great previous works, who's getting published by Ablaze. Mm-hmm. Rachel has spent a lot of time honing their skills, developing their style, learning their equipment, their programs, because I believe this is done digitally, correct?
Yes.
So
to my knowledge, yes.
Yeah, so they've learned their programs. Perhaps they're paying a monthly subscription, whatever. Art's expensive.
Art's so expensive.
And so showing it also, I think what I like most about this is not just this keeps people in the know about what does that 10,000 total mark go for.
Mm-hmm.
It lets them know, like, one, you're paying your artist properly, which is yay, but also it shows like, hey, this comics end of it, the visual end of comics, is massive. Mm-hmm. Also, one thing in not pertinent really to the interview, but taxes. Do you pay income tax on this?
Yeah, technically speaking, we're paying some form of taxes on money that we get from Kickstarter. Now, a lot of that is balanced out by expenses. Obviously, we're not paying, if you're keeping track of things properly, then you're not going to be like, doubling down on your losses or anything. But yeah, you always want to save some just in case things go well and you make a profit, and you never want to find yourself owing the government a bunch of money. So like, no, keep yourself out of that hole, my friend.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Like this again, this is like your 4th time coming on the show.
Yeah, this is our 8th. This is our 8th project. that we're doing. We've been successful in all but one of them, and in that one, it was a really massive goal, and we made 75% of it. So I'm still proud of what we've done on that, and hopefully that book will be able to come back and we'll be able to fund it properly that time. But yeah, we have a lot of experience doing this, and this is a book that I'm really excited to get out the door. So
beautiful. Earlier you mentioned like you've got 119 backers or 191 backers. Sorry,
191. Yeah. Don't try and exchange rate the backers.
Well, in that case, actually, it'd be like 214.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got 23 days left. I guess earlier we touched on it, that you actually have a lot of new folks coming to this book.
Yeah.
Some of your old fan base, but a lot of new folks. What are you noticing trend-wise in your new fans, so to speak, your new backers? What are they mentioning about the book? Have you got any messages from people about it?
I mean, I've definitely gotten a few, like, hey, how long is the book going to be? Which is a fair question. We do answer it a number of times, but yeah, no, I'm always down to answer questions and talk with people. Mostly, what I've gotten in terms of like excitement and thing is just like people are really hungry for. I mean, like Sapphic and queer content, people are extremely hungry for, but also just like romance. People really like, I think that genre has been kind of starved in comics for a while, and people really want to see more of that. So, yeah, and just that's, I think part of it is me being like, hey, do you like The Princess Bride? And everyone being like, extremely yes. Say less. I get it. Yeah, no, it's there's been a lot of excitement about it, and I think that very like light fantasy romance aesthetic is something that people crave and have a lot of good feelings towards. So that's my theory on why people are enjoying it. I think definitely the art is much more of it, the Fellhound cover, the Skylar Patridge cover, Rachel Disler's interiors, like there's a lot to love about the book.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Just straight up agreed. Yeah. So we've got like 7 minutes left of the interview.
Sure.
As always, I like to let people also get to know you as well as the project. So I guess maybe this is kind of more creator oriented, but Wells, as mentioned, you're always creating. You've got a little bit of that writing ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a next thing already lined up after this?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, no, the nature of Kickstarter and indie comic creation is that it's a slow moving engine. So, this is a book that I started writing in, I want to say October. It was right after Frankenstein #2 stopped, or like ended its campaign on Kickstarter. Okay. So it would have been sometime in October that I started writing this, and we're just now getting it like to Kickstarter to get it made. And this is like the fastest a book has ever appeared, like it materialized. So, keep that in mind. So like, yes, I have sort of my next two campaigns fully planned out, and I have pretty strong idea about what 3 and 4 are going to be after that. That said, again, we're always adapting on the fly. We're always trying to come up with what the best solution is, and what the best project would be next. Yeah, but creatively, I've been working on a project that is a little bit more risque, I'll say.
Ooh.
And Krista, who is the editor for this book, is editing that one as well. And so hopefully that will see some life at some point in 2024. Hopefully that'll see a campaign. Other than that, we've got more Frankenstein the Unconquered coming later this year.
Love it.
We want to revive Depths and put it out at a lower goal, still still feasible goal, but a lower goal than we had originally. And as always, we're looking to do more Mechaton, whether that's the trade or issues issue 6, issue 7, whatever that needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're always looking forward to what's the next thing going to be.
I guess a next question that I have for you, because I'm really curious, is clearly you're doing very well on Kickstarter, just going at your own. Because of that, are you not shying away from it, are you avoiding Ablaze, Scouts,
I'm certainly not avoiding them. I think that those are, in my view, those are going to be like in addition tos.
Okay.
Like I don't see, unless some things change in the comic industry very quickly, which I don't see happening at the moment. I don't see me putting up a bunch of my own money to make a comic for Image that I'm never going to see a dime from. That I just don't see happening. Now, making taking a comic from Kickstarter that I've already paid off, that like has paid for itself already, and that I'm already making money on, and then putting it out on the direct market. Yeah, I can do that. That's sort of what we're doing with Mechaton. That's we don't have any immediate plans to do that with Frankenstein, but it is certainly in the conversation.
Cool.
And it is, and Catskin, I'm sure will be the same thing. We'll put it out. We'll see what we want to do with it. But it's very nice to be in a position where it's not necessarily that I get to be choosy about what what publishers I get to work with or anything, but to say, hey, I have this full book. Do you want it? And if not, okay, no sweat. It's already paid for. Like I'm not dependent on this doing well. It's just, if you want to, this clearly has an audience, and if you want to capitalize on that, great. And if not, I'll take my ball somewhere else.
Yeah, that creative power, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it is, you're not tied to anyone. You can just do what you want with it.
For sure.
That's fantastic. I'm very curious, and you don't have to answer this. I'm just maybe something to think about. I am very curious if you would ever get yourself into a contract with Image, Scout, or whoever, just to be like a contracted writer for them.
If someone wants to pay me to write, I'm down.
Oh, okay, cool.
If you want to pay me to write a series, I will absolutely do that. I just, for my own ideas, like I'm not gonna break my back writing it only to never to wind up in debt, or to never see any residuals or anything from it. I want to make sure that if I'm making it with my own image in mind, and that when it comes time to share it with the direct market, I have the power to say, okay, well, I want a deal that's good, and I want, and I'm not dependent on just getting it out there. So yeah, but absolutely, if someone acquires, the rights to a cool property and wants me to write for them, absolutely. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. I need to write Spider-Gwen. Like it's no longer a desire. It's a need. It's a after Across the Spider-Verse, I need to write that character. I'm not hanging my hat on that, but if someone has a cool idea, I will absolutely do work for hire. And that goes for indies as well. If you're an artist that has a cool idea of something you want to draw and no idea how to make it work, hit me up. I will absolutely write that.
You've heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
make no mistake, I am available for purchase.
I love it. Well, we have hit our hour, Wells, so I won't keep you. But an important question that I like to ask is, where can the folks follow you? Where are you most active online?
Mm-hmm.
And once again, for the folks tuning in, where can they get your book?
Absolutely. So I am Wells Thompson. I am most active on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wells Thomp on both, which you can see down there on the thing. Yeah.
Yep.
I also have a website, wellsthompson.com. There you can sign up for my newsletter or contact me if you want writing or editorial services. I am available for both of those. And for my latest book, The Catskin and the Rose, you can pick that up on Kickstarter right now until August 10th, I believe. Yeah,
that sounds about right.
August 10th. 2023, yes, at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or whatever it is, Eastern. My other work you can pick up through Scout's website, through my own website, Ko-Fi.com. I have a shop on with Mechaton and Frankenstein on it, as well as a couple of other anthologies. And you can always reach out to me through social media or through my email, again on my website, and we can arrange something if you just really want to buy my stuff. I will not refuse your money in any circumstance.
I love it. Absolutely, Wells. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. You're always welcome back. And for the folks out there in YouTube land, comment down below what you thought of Wells, what you think of their various projects, and go back The Catskin and the Rose. And don't forget, while you're on your way, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day. Yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns. Can't find issue 2? Collector problems, cliffhangers, mysteries. You need answers. When did Batman become Green Lantern? I get it. True believer, not